All right, we're going to wrap up intros. We're going to jump right into the schedule this morning. I now have the pleasure, if I could have your attention, folks. If we could quiet down, we're going to get started. I now have the pleasure of welcoming to the stage the former governor of the state of Washington, Jay Inslee. Over the past 30 years, Governor Inslee has provided bold leadership at the local, state, and federal levels that has demonstrated the powers of innovation and inspiration to move our communities forward. More recently, his leadership as the three-term governor of Washington has led to unprecedented success in building a clean energy economy, fighting climate change, and improving opportunities for working families in Washington. Today, Jay Inslee continues this work as principal of the Inslee Group, where he advises companies, investors, nonprofit climate advocates, and institutions at the forefront of the clean energy transition. We are thrilled to have Governor Inslee join us as a keynote speaker because of his visionary leadership on state-led climate action. Please join me in welcoming Governor Inslee to the stage.
Good morning. My name is Jay Inslee, former governor of the state of Washington. I'm here to make a very important pronouncement, and that is until the Seattle Supersonics return to Seattle, I am a Detroit Pistons fan. I just want to make that real clear. In part because my boyhood hero, Bob Hubriggs, All-American from Washington, played 17 games for the Detroit Pistons in the 57-58 season. So I'm a believer in Michigan, and I'm glad to be here. Mary Liz, thank you for your introduction. Thank you for your work. I want to start with just a historical note. 7 years ago, the Washington Post ran a headline, and it said, Jay Inslee wants to save unions and the planet at the same time. That headline actually was a little off, because the people who are saving working people and getting cheaper energy and saving the planet are right here in the room. Give yourself applause for what you are doing to do that. And I am thrilled to be here, and I'll tell you why personally I'm thrilled to be here. Small story. I was in Congress in 2006, and I saw a future where we could have cleaner, cheaper transportation for Americans, where we could electrify our transportation system. And I wanted to share that news with members of Congress. So I brought the Chevy Volt prototype to Congress, and we brought it down in a U-Haul truck. And we brought it down. I wanted to show my colleagues this vision of the future made in Detroit. And we took it down, and my buddies came down to look at it. We popped the hood. There was no motor in it. And my buddy said, what are you doing? This car doesn't even have a motor yet. And I said, well, it's a prototype. It's coming. And they said, well, it's coming, but it's not here yet. Jump forward to 2026. We're fully 1 out of 5 every car sold in the state of Washington is electric. They're made with American workers, and I'm driving a Chevy Bolt, and I'm proud of it. Thank you to Chevrolet and what Michigan is doing for the United States. So Mary Liz, thank you for joining the Blue-Green Alliance, for putting people to work and decarbonizing our future at the same time. And there are so many champions in Michigan. Look, the Michigan story I want to tell around the United States. When I think of the work that Phil Roos and Alessandra Carrion are doing, it's really, really inspiring to see leadership in the Midwest leading the nation and the world of the new clean energy, cheaper energy sources of our new economic growth. And it's happening right here in Michigan. And it's happening because of your leadership. I think of Mary Sheffield, Cracker Jack new mayor, with her neighborhood solar incentive project. I'm told the sun shines even in Michigan. This is pretty nice. And you know, you don't have to worry about the Straits of Hormuz when you got solar energy. Nobody's ever fought a war over solar energy, okay? And by the way, for people who says this is a pipe dream, I think it's worth celebrating that 92% of all of the electrical generating capacity that we have brought online in the last year in the United States is clean, renewable energy. And I think it's worth celebrating that the price of solar energy has come down 83% in the last 10 years. And the batteries have come down probably 40 or 50%. This is a train to the future. We're on it right now, and it has arrived at the station. And everybody in this room has the capacity to continue that revolution that we are seeing. I want to thank a particular governor that I hold in great esteem, Gretchen Whitmer. And I'll tell you, I got to meet her when she was first running. And I knew she was going to win the governor's race a few years ago. I was hiking up in the Olympic Mountains. And I came down, and we got back to the trailhead, and it was dusty, we were hot, our feet were tired. And I saw this couple changing their boots and having a cold brew of some of the best beer in America, which was Washington beer, of course. And this couple was changing their boots. And they had Michigan plates on their pickup. So I just walked over and I said, hey, do you know my friend Gretchen Whitmer? And both of them in sync said, fix the damn roads. At that moment, I knew she was going to win the governor's office. And under her leadership, the Michigan clean energy future is alive and well. And I know this, Michigan is not going back on its goals for a clean energy economy. I know that that's the case. And I know the people in this room are going to make sure that that is the case. Now, this is the Clean Energy and Healthy Conference. I want to tell you why I am so passionate about this subject. And I'll tell you just two little stories why I'm passionate. One is that I was out fishing with my dad when I was about 5 years old out in the San Juan Islands. We were in this little rowboat, and it was really, really foggy. And all of a sudden, I heard this sound. It was this deep whoosh, just kind of a whoosh sound, like deep, deep breathing. And I asked my dad, what is that, Dad? Couldn't see anything through the fog. And he said, I think that's a killer whale, an orca. And I said, killer whale? I'd never heard of killer whales before. And then I saw this black fin come out of the water about 6 feet tall, 20 feet from our boat. From that moment on, I was a believer in the connection of humans and our natural world. And yesterday, when I was in the San Juan Islands with my grandkids, we got to see those same fins in the waters of Puget Sound. We have a connection in Michigan and Washington to a natural world that is profound, that we know that is at risk, with our salmon facing extinction, with our whales having 11 dead gray whales wash up on the beaches of Washington in the last month. We know we have a connection between Michiganders and Washingtonians with our natural world. But there's a second story I want to point out. I was in the industrial region of Seattle about 15 years ago, and I met this young Latina. She was about 14 years of age. And I was talking to her about what she'd been doing. And she said, well, I've been doing some research. And I said, well, she's 14. She's doing research. I said, what about? And she said, well, you know, I was 11 before I found out that some children don't have asthma, because all of my friends have asthma, and I have asthma. So I'm researching the connection between air pollution and asthma. So she was going door to door and knocking on doors to figure out who had asthma and looking at how close they were to sources of pollution, freeways, smokestacks, and the like. And she found this unequivocal, almost linear connection between proximity to sources of carbon pollution and the rates of asthma in her community. She published her research. It's now been confirmed by the epidemiologists at the University of Washington. At age 14, she understood that this was a health issue of carbon pollution for the children of this nation, affecting her and her friends. Something some folks in Washington, D.C. have not figured out to date. Now, the reason I tell you those two stories is that we know about our connection to the natural world. But this is not just about polar bears and whales. It's about our children. And here in Michigan, I know you're going to do everything humanly possible to drive down the rate of childhood asthma by decarbonizing your economy. Congratulations of the work that you are doing. And at the same time, at the same time growing jobs and getting people more reasonably priced electricity. Now, I know that this is a truth in Michigan just like it is in Washington, in part because I met a woman named Teresa Landrum a few years ago when I was running for president. Is Teresa here by chance? Teresa, you got to give a round of applause for this tremendous leader. Teresa, good to see you. I got to know her while I was running for president. By the way, it's no secret I ran for president. It just seemed like one at the time, actually, when I was running. But Teresa introduced me to people, to the 48217ers, the most polluted zip code in the state of Michigan, and she told me about the impacts, the health and economic impacts of the current addiction really to fossil fuels. And I learned from her in a very personal way about why we're doing this work. And if you ever want to get a little bit of inspiration, if you're ever butting your head against some wall of the status quo, if you've got a boss who isn't seeing the vision that you have, bring Teresa to talk to your community. She will convince you that we need to win this battle. And she certainly convinced me, although I didn't need a lot of convincing. Now, I think this is a moment worth talking about, the moment we're in. This is, in my view, and I've been at this for 30 years. I started fighting climate change back in 1995 when the science became abundantly clear, although it was before then, about what we were facing. But I consider this a magic moment for those of us who have had a vision for a clean energy future, because we have a convergence of forces which clearly mandate the need to develop clean energy and cheaper energy in the United States, including in Michigan. And there are three forces that have taken place to come all together at this magic moment. Number one, we know that Americans are increasingly frustrated about their high electricity costs. Number two, we know that the market is demanding sources of clean energy because it is cheaper and because it is faster, both. And number three, we know that the federal government has withdrawn from any responsibility for dealing with this problem. Three things that have all come together that give us an opportunity to move forward in this regard. And we ought to seize that moment. And here's why I say, and I'm kind of a contrarian on this, because I get people come up to me and said, you know, the federal government is withdrawn doing anything on clean energy. They're trying to destroy our future, et cetera. It's all doom and gloom. How do you get through the day? And I always think, no, that's not really true. I'm reminded what Winston Churchill said during the Blitz in London. He was walking through the charred remains of London, and somebody said, how do you get through the day with the devastation of our community? And he said, you know what? These are actually great days because they are days of consequence. They're days where we can pull together. They're days that these challenges serve to bring out the best of us. And right now, I believe these are great days for Michigan and Washington where we can move the ball forward. Because we have demonstrated in Washington, and you have in Michigan as well, that this is really true. Nobody in the White House can stop Michigan or Washington from moving forward on clean energy. It can't be done. Because these are, after all, the United States of America. The states, under our constitutional framework, have the ability to control our own destiny. We don't work for any president. We work for our own people. And we have our own mechanisms. In my state, we have been successful, as you have, in developing clean energy. We're growing jobs like crazy. We're getting people cheaper electricity. We have multiple policies to do that, from a low-carbon fuel standard to great building codes to a cap and invest system, which is using $4 billion to get people heat pumps and electric school buses and air filtration systems and electric charging stations. And I know some people have said, well, that's great, that's fantasy land, but people don't support that. Let me tell you what the people did in Washington State when this was put to a vote. These folks came after our cap and invest system, which has been so effective in helping Washingtonians get access to clean energy. And they brought a referendum to try to repeal our cap and invest system. And we had a knockdown, drag out battle on that. Guess how the voters voted? They voted 62 to 38 to maintain our progress in clean energy in the state of Washington. Don't tell me that people don't want clean, cheaper electricity, because we've demonstrated in urban and rural areas, in blue and red areas, and by the way, in red counties, we won overwhelmingly in red counties because people understand the necessity of doing this. Look, the flooding we have experienced in rural areas, the forest fires we have experienced. I had 2 whole towns burned down, Medical Lake and Malden, when I was governor. I had to declare 3 droughts, which is really hurting agriculture, and red counties in my state. We are all in this together. And I'm telling you that I know that you have the public support in getting people cleaner sources of energy. And this is important. Cheaper, I want to put that big CH, cheaper sources of energy. In 90% of the places in the United States right now, solar, wind, and batteries are cheaper than coal-fired energy. And they are competitive with gas in the vast majority of places to exercise our incentives to get these projects going. So we have the tools, we have public support, we have job creation. All of these things are coming together. And in my state, and I believe it's true in Michigan, if you look at all the things we could be doing, heat pumps, electric charging stations, you name it, 80% of that work cannot be stopped by the federal government. This is a beautiful thing. So it's a moment you and I can be in harness working together to really push the envelope and lead the nation as you are doing already. 84% of Americans are concerned about electricity. You can legitimately say that you've got an answer for their problems. And I know that you're doing it. Look, your success has been profound. In the first year of your clean energy legislative package, your utilities added 1,698 megawatts of renewable energy in 2024. It's a 29% increase. These are Herculean achievements that you have already made. Your Renewables Ready Communities program has helped incentivize over 6,700 megawatts of solar and battery storage, and it's all across the state of Michigan, including 57 states. You have 13,256 Michiganders applied for the Michigan Home Energy Rebates to help the elderly. And when people get these rebates, it's the happiest moment in their life. I remember we used our cap and invest dollars to get people, low-income people, solar panels. I remember going to Sunnyside, Toppenish, Washington. I met this woman who picks apples. She gets up at 3 o'clock in the morning to pick apples. By the way, congratulations to Michigan. They've got the 2nd best apples in America. Congratulations. You're doing great. Keep it up. And she told me that every month, she loves getting her utility bills. She just loves it. And I said, why? She says, because it's zero. And the smile on her face was just magic to see what we can do for people's pocketbook as you have. So I want to thank everybody in this room who's been involved in this project, Senator Winnie Brinks, Representative Joe Tate, and others. I know you have multiple legislative leaders. And my message is pretty fundamental. When you look back on your careers, 50 years from now, I'm closer to the end of mine, I do believe that you will find your leadership in this realm the single most important thing you did in public life. In private life, you're being good to your families, you're being good to your neighbors. But in public life, you will look back at all the things that you did, and I believe you will be proudest of this. And the reason is your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren will have a beautiful Michigan to recreate, to hunt, to fish, to swim, to have clean water, to not be subsumed by floods all the time. And that will be an achievement that you can rightfully be proud of. And I believe you will be, because the progress you are making is unstoppable. Technology is with us. The people are with us. The science is behind us. And we have vast majorities of people who want to see this happen. So I bid you well in your journey. I want to let you know we're always there to help in Washington State. We've had a lot of examples of success, and we'd love to share with you. And anytime we can help you, give me a call, and I'll make sure that we do this. So congratulations what you're doing. My closing note, early to bed, early to rise, work like hell and organize. Let's build a great state in Michigan. Congratulations. Go Pistons. Thank you.